I started us off with some nice chill music. Good Sunday morning to you. Today is going to be a challenge. Some of you might wonder why I am teaching you what appears to be an advanced technique, but I assure you, you can do this. Either that or one of us is going to have a nervous breakdown by the end of this video. And believe me, when I was laying this out and trying to figure out how to explain it clearly and show you the steps so that it wouldn't be confusing for you, well, let's just say it might be me at the end of this video. Okay, enough clowning. I have to get my disclaimer out of the way, and that is, you cannot sell finished books from this template, nor can you sell the template. This junk journal is based on the When Your Child is Missing publication on missingkids.org. It's a public document. My tax dollars, your tax dollars already paid for it. However, we do not own the copyrighted text. Therefore, we cannot sell it. You cannot sell it. Nobody can sell anything. All right, enough of that. Let's go. As you would expect, your tools and materials are on the right side, and in the darker box with white writing on the left side are your cut lists. And this cut list, I've given it to you up front, but don't stop the video and start cutting. Just be patient, and I'll go through why we did these cuts this way. You need 3 pieces of cardstock. I'm right-handed, so everything that we do is going to be in landscape. You'll have to make adjustments for how you work as a left-hand person. Nevertheless, we're going to work from top to bottom and from left to right. So what you see is my cardstock in landscape format, and I've laid out my ruler, and where that piece of scrap paper is marks 5 1/4 inches. So 8.5 inches tall by 5 1/4 is where we're going to make our first cut. And before you make a cut, you will notice that my right-hand side has the waterfall flipped over, and I made my backer out of 5 1/2 wide by 8 1/2 tall black cardstock. And that's for the camera so that you can see better, because I am aware that you can't always see what I'm doing. If you also want a backer board, you will need an extra piece of cardstock in a contrasting color to whatever cardstock you're working in for your waterfall sections. So the first thing we're going to do is cut 8 1/2 by 5 inches wide out of our main color, and that's our number 6 on the cut list. That's the bottom minus the backer board. I've laid out the first 3 cuts for you so you can kind of get an idea where we're going with this. Same shot, but I've put the cut list in, and I've marked the first 3 cuts as 6, 5, and 4 in the stack. 6 is on the bottom, then 5, then 4. Here are all 6 cuts stacked up. And you can see that they fall into a waterfall effect if we've made our cuts correctly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to score 1/2 inch down from the top, and I'm going to insert a little bonus technique tip. Now I'm going to give you a mini lesson on scoring. For those of you who didn't watch last week's video, it's important to watch every week because I give a technique lesson. If you don't have a scoreboard, you could use anything with a blunt tip, like a double-pointed needle for knitting, if you have that. If you have a kit of leather embossing or ceramics tools, this is probably easier to see this way. This is a little ball-ended stylus, and it has 2 different sizes. So you can use something like that. We're going to do a grand experiment and see if we can make our score with just a gift card. Now, what I have to tell you is when you score, you can't score on a solid surface that doesn't have some give to it, like, your kitchen table or kitchen countertop. That won't work because there has to be something squishy underneath. Maybe an old mouse pad will work if you don't push down hard. I don't know. So what I've done is I've set my scrap piece up here and I've drawn what is going to be my score line in with pencil so you can see it better, because I am aware that sometimes you can't see lines when I'm using them, and so I've drawn it in this time. And it won't show anyway should I use this scrap piece. So let's first try just a gift card. And because the gift card has a little bit of width to it, I'm going to back off just so that my line actually shows next to my ruler. That'll give me enough space to accommodate for this card. All right, so here we go. And I'm putting a fair amount of pressure, even though I have a squishier surface than a kitchen counter. So you probably won't be able to see it, but I can tell you that it did put a groove in there, but I would not, I would want something a little more substantial than that groove. So I would choose, get this lined up again, I would choose something with a point. So this is a relatively blunt point. Let's try this and see if this will work. It will. I've used it before. So down the line I go. And yeah, I can definitely feel a groove in there. And that's what you want. So you're going to line your stuff back up after you have made a groove in there. Or you're just, in your case, you'll just keep it where it is. Then you can for sure use your gift card. I keep forgetting this camera is shooting in a different, it has a narrower screen than my big camera. All right, so once you've scored it, then you're going to just do this with your card, because you don't have big, long fingernails like I do. And you're just going to ease that card stock up, and then you're going to fold it on that line and burnish it with anything you have at your fingertips. I'm using my detail scissors, and I'm just running my edge along that to get that crease to be nice and sharp. There you go. That's your mini lesson on scoring. And in your waterfall, you're going to score after you get all these cut and you make sure that they are, falling the way you want them to. They're all spaced the correct way. Then you're going to, if you did what I did and you used a backer board, then your 6-inch board, your 8.5 by 5. Oh, I'm confused now. If you used a backer board, then your next board is going to be the 8.5 measurement by 5 inches, right? So you can see I have just the tiniest little reveal, and I do that for camera. And then I marked out on my bottom piece, I marked out so that I could double check, and you can see some stuff is drifted. But our next step might be next week if I can't get these clips off. Our next step, after you have scored all the tops at 1/2 inch down, is going to be to start laying out our waterfall. Here's my backer board. And I've taped mine down because, believe me, lining this stuff up is what's going to lose me subscribers. You guys are going to be so mad at me. So here's my 1/2 inch. Here's my, on my backer board, here is my 8.5 by 5 inches, and I folded it over. I tacked it down with frog tape. Now, the way this happens is, of course, I messed up the order. See, we're going to fold all these down and make sure that they're folded really well. All right, here's our stack. And then from the top, this top edge with our fold down is going to go flush with the top of our, let me do it this way. It's going to go flush with the top of our waterfall piece. We're going to keep, you could clip these, do whatever is going to keep you sane, because getting this first one right is 98%. If you've made good cuts and good folds, getting this first one right is 98% of making this look nice. Not just functional, but it looks nice. So I am not using white glue. I'm using silicone glue, and hopefully it'll actually come out of the bottle without me having to stop and thin it down. And nope, I've pushed it too far. All right, the glue is now functioning, and I have jumped ahead of you from where we left off one step because I want to show you. See how this is not even? You don't get this first one right. All the ones that you put in after that are going to be skewed unless you make a correction. All right, so we've acknowledged that, and I have tried to fix this the best I can. And I'm trying to keep this in frame for you. Hi, voiceover me. I'm just going to take over for demonstration me because I was getting very tired at the end of this, and I was a little frustrated that those pieces didn't line up. So I put down the first two pieces, and I'm going to show you now how to do all of those pieces after you line up the first one. So you're going to put glue on the 1/2 inch that you bent back, and you're not going to use a lot. If you're using silicone glue, you are not going to use a lot, and you're going to spread it out with your little silicone spatula. Keep trying very hard not to get glue over the edge like that, because it will glue things shut. And then you're going to butt that fold right up to the end of the previous piece. Not the fold line of the previous piece, but the actual end of the paper. And you'll see I have a little fiddling and a little adjusting to do to keep the sides all in line. That's why we cut them all at 5 inches, so that, and at 1 inch intervals, so that the numbers, the cutting would be easy. You can see there, I've got a little bit of glue there, but I've actually corrected my first piece, my top piece, being a little off kilter, and now everything is lining up on the sides, and I believe this is the last one. And as it turned out, I had cut what amounts to 2 backers, because after I had started this, I thought, oh, this is so hard to see on camera for people. Let me put it up against black. So I will have to trim this last piece, and you'll see that in just a second as I line this last one up, keeping my sides all as straight as possible and butting that fold line up against the end of the previous paper, as I said before, not butting the fold line to fold line. Okay, now I've noticed that this last piece, because I actually ended up cutting 2 of them, is a little too long, and we're gonna see how I fix that. I make a 1/4 inch cut, just enough to reveal that there's one more page. I get all my pages out of the way. My backer is out of the way on the left-hand side, and oh my goodness, you might not be able to see this because I didn't realize I had drifted out of frame. Oh, nope, I did. So I get all the pages out of the way except for the one that I'm going to cut. I line it up on a 1/4 inch mark, and eventually I make this cut, which you can't see apparently. But there's the scrap piece. Now let's see if that fixed it enough to make me happy. And it's out of frame. So what I have at the bottom is the piece that I just cut. The second to the last page is a 1/4 inch shorter than my last page, and then my backer page is about 1/8 of an inch longer. Maybe you'll get to see this and maybe you won't. Now, while I struggle with my corner rounding punch, you can see right where my left finger was. You could see that there was a 1/4 inch. Maybe again we will be able to see it, maybe not. I'm going to skip through the corner punching because it didn't go so well. Finally got through all the corner punching about 5 days later, and I'm showing you right there where I still didn't get it lined up, but you really can't tell. It's pretty good if I do say so myself. And now we're going to look at what we've actually done for this Find Me Junk Journal, the structure of it, up to this point. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've made our cover up to the point where we've covered front, back, insides. Then we made folios. We also made this big pocket that's made out of 3 window envelopes that are 6 inches by 9 inches. We cut the 9-inch end off here, and we cut it off here. Then this week we made these flip-up folios, and where they're going to end up, I'm not sure. I just talked about whether they could end up on a on the back of a folio or some other place. So you should have these 4 elements done, and then we will move on to tabs and some other insertions as I get the template done. You notice we haven't glued anything down yet, and that is totally dependent on how many elements we have to make. You guys have tied it up at 50-50 Midori or some other binding, so we're going to do Midori binding so we have a little more flexibility with where our elements end up and what we have to glue down and what we don't. I've left you that cut list again so you can screenshot it if you want to. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this lesson did not send you to the loony bin. As it happens, I survived nicely without going to the loony bin, although it was a crapshoot. God bless you. I'll see you real soon.